Do you dim your light? Do you shrink yourself? Do you sometimes make yourself small? Do you hide your gifts? Does speaking your truth make you feel deeply unsafe? Does being authentically seen by others feel threatening? Do you often feel like you are both too much and not enough? You may carry the ancient spiritual trauma known as the witch wound. I thought this would be a perfect time to explore the witch wound and all the persecution, trauma, and fear associated with the word witch. And on the show today, my guest is Schamet Horsfield. She is a new paradigm priestess, clairvoyant, oracle, sacred feminine leader, and a woman who knows a lot about how to heal the witch wound. So make sure to watch all the way to the end, because this is going to be a very potent, magical, juicy, and powerful conversation. Pull out your broom and get ready to brush away the cobwebs, sweep out all the fear, to explore those places that you have avoided for lifetimes and transform that wound into wisdom and ultimately your superpowers. So here we go, from witch wound to Wonder Woman. I am Heaven Hope. This is Conversations with Goddess. Let's take a look at the witch wound with Schamet Horsfield.
Thank you, Heaven Hope, for having me on today. I always like to light a candle before we begin. I'm going to go ahead and light mine in the intention of bringing light, healing, and education to this time together. And we call in the angels, guardians, guides, the goddess, and the universe to bring light and healing, enlightenment in this conversation today with the goddess, with Heaven Hope. Thanking her for holding this sacred space on her channel of divine wisdom to come through my channel and her channel and to touch the hearts and the soul of those that need this conversation. Blessings be to Celestine Star for bringing us together. Blessings be to the goddess. Blessings be to the sacred divine feminine and the awakening of the new feminine paradigm.
Thank you, Schamet, for that beautiful prayer and lighting the candle. May this show and may this conversation bring blessing and healing and light into a dark place for anyone who's watching. So let's begin. Let's dive into the witch wound. What is your personal story with the witch wound and how you've healed it?
I came into this world with psychic abilities and intuition, and I needed to understand. My quest for a spiritual connection led me to the church. And in my seeking to connect with God, I found the goddess. Very special to me, the word goddess. And I'm here to awaken the sacred divine feminine energy. To your question, the witch wound is different for everyone. Everyone experiences it differently. But my experience of the witch wound is this fear of being seen, fear of being heard, fear of speaking, and fear of persecution. A lot of people have this fear and they don't even know that it is the witch wound. When you start to do your research into what happened in the 1500s, 1600s, and find out that hundreds of thousands of people died, and we don't even know what the number is. There's a lot of debate on how many people died and how many people were injured and persecuted and tortured for being a witch.
According to the numbers in the research, 200 to 500,000 people were persecuted, murdered, burned at the stake, tortured, and all sorts of things like that in that era. 85% of them were women. Hard to believe, but true. And it's important that we have the exact numbers and facts.
There was a book that was published, most best-selling books of all time, next to the actual Bible.
The name of that book is actually The Witch's Hammer. I'm not going to do the big Latin word which starts with male, malleus something, which means evil, bad. Basically, it was just a book to teach people how to persecute witches.
It's very much against women.
Not to give it too much energy, but I will read a little quote written by Pope Innocente. Can you believe the name? Innocent. He wasn't innocent of anything except being an idiot. Okay. All wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Women, by nature, are the instruments of Satan? Are you kidding me? Oh my goddess, what century? Well, that was a pretty dark time. That explains it. There's no excuse for it, but I just thought I'd share quotes from the book, just to give people an idea what it was like back then.
A lot of these people were not even witches. Many of them were women that were empowered, that had intuitive abilities, psychic abilities, or were just really strong and outspoken. Anyone that posed a threat, once you start to really, educate yourself about the Salem witch trials and everything that happened, and this really happened, then you start to understand why there's a wound here. It was a big reality that if you stood out, you spoke too loud, you were too big, you were too powerful, then you were persecuted and you were executed. It is my belief that on the energetic level and the subconscious level of many people, whether they're aware of it or not, are suffering from the witch wound.
I am so grateful that I am here now. And you've had memories of being burned at the stake. I don't have memories, but there's like an inner knowing that I have to be careful.
Like I said, I was a good Christian girl, had a good Christian boyfriend. He was studying to be a priest. He is actually a minister of a church these days. He's published many books. He's an incredible human being. And we really connected. I loved God and community and wanted to just be the best I could be. I wanted to help people. And I've known this ever since I was a little girl. This is why I love Wonder Woman so much, is I knew that I was a Wonder Woman. I came here to bring healing and love to the planet, to awaken consciousness. When I saw Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, I was like, oh, I'm like her. I'm an Amazon woman. I've come here to serve humanity, to raise the consciousness on the planet. I've known that since I was a little girl. There were so many of my ethics, my values, and my morals that I found there. I love community, singing. I love praising the universe. But where is the mother? Like, where's the woman? Where am I in all of this? I just felt like there was something missing. And then when they told me, the church told me crystals were evil and going to a concert was evil, so many different things, I thought to myself, crystals are from the Mother Earth. They're from the planet. How in the world could crystals be evil? Like, I didn't understand that. And then when I was 19, this was my real awakening. I had a premonition dream. I dreamt that my father died. I've never had a dream like that before. And I called my dad and we had an amazing conversation, connected heart to heart, soul to soul. It was so beautiful. I'm so glad that I listened to my intuition and my dream and called him. Well, the next day he passed away. I just remember being so confused and I didn't understand why I dreamt that he died and then he died. And it really scared me. So I opened up to a family member about this. She was really unsupportive and she had her own fears and her own confusion, obviously. But she said probably one of the worst possible things. She said, "Oh my God, you must be a witch. Your dream made this happen." That really was the beginning of my own witch wound. And instead of being in support, in a lot of ways, I felt like she cast a really horrible spell on me in that moment. And being a bit witchy herself in saying something just so terrible. I was 19. I loved my dad, and I would never, ever want any kind of bad stuff for him. It was an unraveling and it was an awakening. I believe every wound, the witch wound, the mother wound, the sister wound, all these wounds within them hold valuable treasure. You know, our treasures are in our triggers. Our treasures are in our wounds. And it opened me. It opened me wide open to find out more. And that began my awakening and alignment journey to the witch wound. A week later, I have a dream of this business card being handed to me, and it was white with gold writing. And it ended up being a clairvoyant healer. And she ended up being my clairvoyant teacher. And she helped me to understand that, you know, I have these premonitions and premonition dreams, and that no, of course I didn't kill my father. Like, that was more about this person's fear than me. What I understand is a lot of the people, the women and the men, but mostly women, that were persecuted during the Salem witch trial did have intuitive wisdom. They were the medicine women. They were the priestesses. They were the goddesses. They were the movers and shakers. What was happening for me during my awakening and my empowerment journey of reclaiming that energy, this had to happen. Fast forward several years, a friend of mine said to me one day, and she meant it in a very loving way. She said, "Oh my, you are such a powerful witch." And, you know, I had thought I had done a lot of healing of my own witch wound, but I had this interesting reaction immediately to her was, "I am not a witch. I'm a goddess." And then she looked at me with a twinkle in her eye and she goes, "Oh, come on, Schamet, you know you're a witch." And I said, "No, I am not a witch. I'm a goddess." And she goes, "Well, that's interesting because I'm a witch and I'm proud of it. You know, what issue do you take with us witches anyways? To be a witch is a wise woman. And I'm telling you that you're a wise woman. You should take this as a compliment, Schamet. And instead you're taking it like you're ashamed of it. Like, do you have a problem with witches?" And I'm so grateful for her calling me out and calling me in on this, because it was an interesting reaction. Well, here's my deal. A witch manipulates and has power over people instead of power with. A goddess surrenders and lets go and allows the sacred divine to move through her. She was putting a spell on someone, a love spell. And so she was saying over and over and over again in her love spell that she wanted this man to love her. And I said to her, "Don't do that. Like, that's the difference between a witch and a goddess. You know, you don't need to do a love spell on someone, because if you do that love spell, it's going to backfire on you. A goddess knows not to do that. A goddess knows she's magical and a goddess knows she's powerful, but a goddess also knows there's a natural divine order to everything, and she wants the highest and best good for all. So she would never do a love spell. And besides, don't you want the man to just love you for who you are authentically because he loves you, not because you've done some spell to make him feel that way? Like, I don't think this is a good idea." Well, she didn't listen to me and she did the spell anyways. And of course it backfired. And, you know, and she came to the realization that actually she wanted someone to just love her, that she didn't have to do any kind of manipulation or spell on them. She always calls me the goddess now, and she's like, "Oh, you're such a powerful goddess." So there was a bit of healing there in our conversation. And so I'm so grateful for this conversation right now, because this is where the healing begins. But in saying all of that, it made me look closer as to why I have this belief that witch means manipulation, that the word witch means casting spells of power over and being, witchy. And I do sometimes find myself, even to this day, even with all the work I've done and all the empowerment that I've done, is sometimes I'll go, ooh, that's a bit witchy. And so there's this association with power over and manipulation in order to get what we want with the word witch. There's a trigger there. And like I said, the triggers hold treasure. The answer is I'm still healing my witch wound. I'm still on that journey. And it's a journey of unraveling, like layers of the onion, of unraveling it all. I do have my broom though, and I brought that to show everyone. I've got this really incredible broom, and I got this in Portland, Oregon. It's a real, amazing, made out of wood broom. I got this I was in my early 20s, and I'm almost 50. And so I've had it for a long time, and I've taken it all over the world with me. A lot of levels, I have claimed my inner witchy self and feel really aligned with the power of being a wise woman. And I feel, even if I don't call myself a witch, I call myself a goddess and I call myself a priestess, I do feel the importance of reclaiming the word witch and bringing healing to all the witches out there. Witch really does mean wise woman, a woman that knows her own magic, her own sovereignty, her own power, and she is very close to nature. She loves the forest. A witch's church is Mother Nature. So I feel this real calling to reclaim the word witch and to reclaim and heal the witch wound, transforming our wounds into our wisdom, and then our wisdom into our superpowers is what I'm all about. I love the idea of flying on a broomstick as well, because this is saying that we are unstoppable when we are true to ourselves and we own our own power, and we are empowered enough to speak up for our truth and who we are, our place in the world, and we don't allow anyone to have power over us. The other part of the witch wound that I'm so passionate about healing is the healing of wise women that are empowered, knowing their ability to step into their sovereignty and having an aligned relationship to their power. I have met women that they do cast spells with their words. They cast spells with their energy, and it's usually based on insecurity, fear, rejection, and really not knowing their true power. And through that insecurity, they will energetically lash out at other women and disempower them. Can we now honor that and acknowledge that and then change the paradigm? My feeling is we do that by collaborating with other powerful women, honoring other powerful women, and not casting spells with our words and our actions and our gossip and our insecurities and our fears of other powerful women. Because this, I feel, is the energetic that was set up during the witch trials. They would target what they thought was a witch, use the people around them to get to that person, to disempower that person. Very manipulative and very disempowering, and a lot of betrayal. A lot happened, and I highly recommend educating yourself. When you're educated and you know why this has happened, then you can change the cycles and the patterns. And so I am passionate about awakening the new feminine paradigm. We have each other's back as women and as powerful priestesses, goddesses, witches, light leaders, change makers, all the powerful women and men. When we can support one another and have a healthy, aligned relationship with power and start to trust each other, then we rise, and together we are stronger. And this is the healing balm for the witch wound, so that we don't repeat the cycles. And when we understand the past of what happened, we can start to understand why we feel afraid, why our throat chakra is blocked, why we are afraid of speaking up for our truth, why we might be afraid of our intuition and our psychic abilities, why we may be afraid of being too loud or too big or standing out. Being aware is the first step. And for me is honoring and nurturing yourself when that does come up. Like really holding kindness and compassion for yourself and for others, nurturing your sacred divine feminine, and then knowing, like really knowing that your connection to the goddess, to the God source, whatever name you give it, the universe, is more powerful than anything else. Knowing that the light of truth, the light of love and kindness always prevails in the end. And I know this with everything in my heart and soul. And this connection to the forest, to the waters, to the earth, to the sky and the stars, and the sacred divine feminine that channels through me, I have begun to trust in myself, trust in my truth, to where I have become unstoppable. And that is the healing balm that has worked for me, is actually going, you know what? I'm going to be me. I am going to be seen. I am going to be heard. I am going to speak my truth, and no one's going to stop me. And that has been my own personal medicine, and finding the treasures in, my triggers, noticing when I get triggered. I have met other powerful women that are so beautiful and so powerful that I feel a trigger and I go, oh, wow, is that my witch wound? Is that my mother wound or sister wound? And what's there for me? And then having a conversation. So my advice is bringing in that part of you that has the witch wound to your table of counsel. I have this wise counsel, and I have my Wonder Woman part there that's powerful, and I have my witch wound part that's scared of being betrayed, of being victimized again, of being cast out of the tribe, scared of persecution. And I bring her in and I nurture her and I love her, just in the same way that I would nurture my little doggy snow star, or my child, or a good friend, or a client when they're having a hard time, loving up on that part of me that has that witch wound, and say, it's okay. You know what? It's okay. I know you've been persecuted in the past, and you're going to be okay because I'm here for you. You do not have to do this alone. You have support. You have support from your goddess sisters, your priestess sisters, your witchy sisters, and from the universe. About the boyfriend that became a minister, him and I are really good friends now, and he's finally come to the realization that he does not need to save me, that I'm already saved, and he has realized that I have the same connection to source, to love, to kindness. And he even said to me, oh, we're doing the same thing. We're just using different words. And I said, you finally got it. God, Goddess, the mother, the father, and the wise woman. From witch to Wonder Woman, we are all one and the same. The real healing is in the healing of power and the healing of trust and the healing of us coming together in wholeness and not needing to have power over or to undermine another human being, and to actually see them for where they are and to accept ourselves where we are and to have power with and not power over. It's the magical power that we have, and being able to sit in that power and also allow another powerful woman to sit in her power without diminishing another woman's power. And that happens, I'm like, ooh, she says she's a goddess, but she's a bit witchy. And so I, I even still have that idea. And so, maybe this is a word that we've used to describe the misuse of power.
I just wanted to add that in doing research for the show, I came across this little piece of information. For thousands of years before Christianity, a witch was honored for being a seer, a knower, and a wise person who connected with nature. So what happened to all of that?
Wow. What do you think happened to that? I mean, if you look back into the history, and look, it started with, I want to just give a shout out to this book called Witch, Unleashed, Untamed, and Unapologetic. Lisa Listler. I love this book so much, but I read it and I cried and I was so angry. And my husband said, well, why are you so angry? I said, you have no idea. When you study history and you find out what happened, it wasn't just women. It was anyone that had any intuition, psychic abilities. They were the seers, they were the healers, they were the midwives, priestesses. Any kind of influence or power that was seen as a threat to the ideology. We still have this persecution wound because it's still happening today. We're not outwardly killed, but I know for me, it's always been a fear, putting myself out there as a priestess, putting myself out there as a goddess. There is this underlying fear of, are we all going to be collected up and burned again? Mm-hmm. But the persecution is still happening. We're still the woo-woos of the world. We're still the, on the fringe, and we're a bit strange. And maybe we're even a bit crazy if we have premonitions. Even though it's becoming more and more accepted in the mainstream, we're still treated differently. And we are treated as if we are not as good as everyone else. We're still the outcasts. We're still the rebels. We're still the outspoken.
There is a fear of feminine power.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. I think that women are so powerful. They don't really even know how powerful they are. That power has been controlled, persecuted, and it terrifies. If you look at the patriarchy, what has it done? It has tried to control feminine power, especially divine feminine power, which is the most potent force in all of creation.
When I first came out as a priestess, I put it out there and then I took it all back and I took it back down. And then I put it back up there and then I cried. And it was valid because I did get persecuted. I did have people come out of the woodwork and attack me. I did have family members and friends criticize me. The persecution is real.
There's like an inner knowing that I have to be careful about being too powerful.
I remember in a past life being persecuted and dying for who I was in lifetimes like that. And I've run into many, many people that have that same past life memory of being persecuted for being powerful, for being a threat, for speaking out for truth. I mean, we're the movers and the shakers. We're the ones that are going to change the world. My message for everyone that's watching today, in order to heal the witch wound, the sister wound, the mother, all these wounds, okay? If you think about a wound, what does that wound have inside of it? It has fear. It has
pain.
Do we just ignore it? No, we can't ignore it. Cover it up and pretend that it's not there. No, it's not possible. I mean, I tried, but that didn't work.
Sooner or later, it will rear its head again. I was going to say it's ugly head, but there's nothing ugly about it. It's actually something within you that is calling for an awakening and empowerment.
Yeah. So acknowledgement is the first step, and having the conversations like we're having today, talking about it. And so thank you so much for having this conversations with the goddess.
The divine feminine is rising, and women and the entire planet is waking up, and it's about time. It's critical to the healing and the salvation of Mother Earth.
And we address it, then we can bring it into the light, because then it's not sitting in the shadows anymore. Talk to other women, get support, honor yourself, honor the wounds that you have. Business slogan thing that I made up is transforming wounds into wisdom and wisdom into superpowers. So, you know, it's all about like, okay, there's a wound here, the witch wound. What's the healing balm? The healing balm is finding the wisdom that is inside there, you know, in that wound. What does it have to say to us? What does it have to speak to us? You know, when I read this book, Witch, and I got so angry, you know, my wound was my anger, and my wisdom in my anger is, wow, this is fuel for my revolution of making a difference in the world and being a change agent, being an activist for feminine power. It is the fire within my belly that burns so bright that I'm not going to put out, because it's the torch and the light, like the candle, that fuels my flame to do the work that I do. And it keeps me going. I don't want to, you know, dampen it. I want to stir the cauldron of that fire and allow the superpowers to come from that wisdom.
To stir the pot so that all of that can start to bubble up and really surface for a massive healing. I think that is really what is being called forth. And that's why we have answered that call. And that's what I love about you, Schamet, is that you are so fiery, so feisty, and you will not allow anything to stop you on your mission. I completely relate to that and resonate with that. And how wonderful to meet a sister who has that commitment, that passion for her path as a new paradigm priestess. What is a new paradigm priestess?
I wrote and illustrated a book called Baby, Child of the Universe back in 2010. And it came from me asking the universe, okay, what next? And then I had this complete download of this new paradigm superhero. And I described myself as a new paradigm author and illustrator. I've always been so deeply connected to creating and birthing the new paradigm. Like when I was a little girl and I didn't know even what those words meant, I knew I was here to be part of a new consciousness, like something new, something from where I came from, the light and the love and the beauty, and that we were all spiritual and we were all spiritually connected, that we were going to birth that. And I had visions and dreams about it when I was a little girl. And someone asked me in the priestess training, she says, well, what kind of priestess are you? And it just came out. Like I didn't have any thoughts about it. I just went, oh, new paradigm. And she went, oh, what does that mean? And then I said, well, it's about birthing the new paradigm. It's about something brand new, and not limiting ourselves by, oh, you're this kind of priestess or you're that kind of priestess. It's like, no, what is your connection? And so, because I do a 1-year priestess training, I'm helping and align and guide women and men, if they choose to step in, what's inside of them, what's coming through for them. I don't want to limit that. I don't want to say, okay, I'm going to train you to be a rose priestess. I'm very passionate about the fact that we are together awakening consciousness of a new paradigm. And it's almost even hard to explain with words of what that is, because we're still birthing it.
Mhm.
I feel like we're still pregnant with the consciousness that is being birthed on the planet now. But I can say the feeling I have of the new paradigm is that we're all connected in love. It's almost like instead of the third eye being here, it's our heart that's open, and we're all connected and we're all one, no matter how different we are. If you believe one thing and I believe another thing, that's okay, because we're connected with love. And so the new paradigm to me is the new paradigm of feminine power, and honoring that power, honoring intuition, honoring our psychic abilities, honoring that each and every one of us has a unique brand of magic. Each
Mhm.
and every one of us has an imprint and medicine and healing balm to bring. And this is where there's no competition. There's no competition between you and I, because you and I have a particular brand of magic that we're birthing into the world. And there may be overlaps and there may be similarities, because you and I have the same mission and life path purpose. And I feel like we're soul sisters from many lifetimes too,
Absolutely. Mhm.
you know. However, there's absolutely no competition at all, because we each have our own unique feminine power that we are bringing and birthing to the world, and everyone does. And
Yeah.
I feel like that is the new paradigm, is being able to honor and recognize that.
We as women and as priestesses in service to the divine feminine and the great goddess really have to celebrate one another, celebrate each other's magnificence, power, celebrate each other's beauty, celebrate each other's magic.
The witch wound, it's layered. Being aware of the imprint of that energy and why it's there,
Mhm.
knowing our history, educating ourselves about what happened, so
Mhm.
that we understand. And
And
that's
now also shifting, coming into a fullness of who we really are and standing in our power. And finally, doing the deep inner work of feeling safe, to say, I am safe and I stand in my power. And I am here to be in service to the Great Mother for the great awakening that is unfolding now, and celebrating one another and being so grateful that there are others out there who are joining in doing this most important work of midwifing the birth of the new earth.
new earth, new world, a new way.
Mhm.
Because if we're on the brink of destruction, if we continue on, it's not going to work out so well for humanity.
It's
We're
not
not going to have an earth anymore. If we continue on as we have been, there is no more us. And I don't believe there is a planet B or a plan B, and so the goddess, to circle back, is this great Mother Earth, and healing her. And I think in a lot of ways, in the ways that we've been, the patriarchal energy's been so abusive and horrible to women. Look at how we're treating the planet. Look at Mother Earth and what we're doing to her, raping, having power over the earth instead of power with. I'm part Native American, and that Native American part of me is the part of me that says, how can we listen to her? Great Mother Goddess, Mother Earth, what can I do for you today? Anytime I do a summit, it's always putting that money towards Pachamama Alliance and Women's Refuge, helping women, helping the earth. And how can we all keep doing that? Because it needs to happen. And I know I get really fired up about it.
We've been burned over it. Now the time is to really get fired up and burn through whatever is stopping us from creating unity consciousness.
Exactly. And I'm called a witch now. I'm like, oh, they think I'm a wise woman. That's good. They think I'm a bit outspoken. That's good. They think I'm a bit fiery and a bit of a rebel. I like that.
Yeah.
And so, and they think I'm so powerful, that I could do things like that I didn't think that I could do. Okay, well, I know that I'm a seer, and I call myself an oracle and a priestess. That's what I resonate with mostly. But I'll be the first to admit that the word witch is still triggering.
I think that it's important to give the superpower part that is starting to be birthed out of this whole wound. That if we do the work of shifting that paradigm within us, there is actually something grand and wondrous and amazing that is being birthed out of it, which is the Wonder Woman is starting to emerge out of the witch wound.
I have found a whole chest full of treasures and gemstones in that trigger, and it continues. I've been on this planet long enough to know that the healing process is not straight line. It's not like you get here and then you're here. It's a circle. It's a circle, and it circles, and it's like an onion, and there's layers. And so just when you think that you've finished, there's another layer. And so my experience of working with the witch wound, the mother wound, the sister wound, and going into that and being aware of that, I have found that the treasures there are my wisdom. Wisdom actually become my superpowers, which leads us to the Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. So, that fiery anger inside of me for what has happened and wanting to clear and heal and empower has become my fuel to be unstoppable. And so when someone tells me, no, that can't be done, or that's not possible, I'm already finding a way to make sure I can make it possible. And so it has turned me into a Wonder Woman, in that the persecution and what has happened has made me so strong. And I mean, it's cliche to say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but it's a cliche for a reason. I don't want to ever deny that there are victims and there are victimizers. And that is very real. And honoring that, but then not being stuck there. And that's the difference. A lot of times people say, oh, well, don't be in victim mentality. But if you were a victim, you first have to admit, I was a victim, and grieve that victimization. And so healing the witch wound is like really educating yourself about what happened, and then feeling into if it happened to you, and then acknowledging that hurt and that pain and that persecution, and really like loving yourself. It's like, ooh, owie, that really hurt, and really loving up on yourself. And then also not being stuck there, not marinating in it to a point that you then become stuck in the grief, in the victim. And so in order to rise out of that is finding out what the treasures are. What's the healing balm? What's the magic? What's the lessons? What's the learning? And then for me, really stepping into the Wonder Woman for me in my own personal journey is coming out and being seen, even when it's scary. Hey, let's talk about the witch wound. I know from personal experience, when I run a manifestation circle, I have 30 women come. I do a witch wound ceremony, only a few come. And they don't want to sometimes look at their wounds.
They don't want to feel the pain.
They don't want to feel the shadow. They don't want to feel the shame. They don't want to go into it. But I feel that that is the doorway.
The wound is where the light enters you.
By going into my pain, by going into my triggers, I have now become unstoppable. And
I love that about you.
Wonder Woman.
I love that about you, that you're unstoppable. I love that.
I am. Oh boy, I am.
I love that about all women who are unstoppable. It's an important trait to cultivate, that inner resilience, that commitment to a vision, and just saying to yourself, no matter what, I am unstoppable, and I will say to the mountain, move, and the mountain will move.
We call it phoenixing. When you rise up from the ashes of that persecution, you become stronger and stronger, and it's like you rise up with wings. And I feel I've become so strong in my faith, in my connection to my mission, my purpose, my passion, that I can rise up again, and my wings are so strong that it doesn't matter what anybody else says or does, because I know who I am. And so that was the other piece, is, knowing who you are and not allowing anyone else to tell you anything different. I'm not going to say I've arrived, but I know enough from my own journey and my own phoenixing and transforming those wounds into my own wisdom, those wisdom into my superpowers to be the Wonder Woman that I am, that I can then help guide others there. I really want to acknowledge that it is scary. You know, it really is. It brings up a lot. And I think having these conversations helps others be aware of that energy that's there, because sometimes people don't even know what it is. You know, they go, oh, I just have this fear of being seen and I don't know why. I have this feeling that if I speak my truth, that I'll be persecuted.
Not just women, but many people have been conditioned to shut down their throat chakra.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment and share some wonderful little gemstones and tools and tips that people can use when they are feeling the fear and maybe shrinking back and playing small and just being afraid to be themselves.
I talk to my inner child. You know, I go within, and I for the first time in my life, I have a dog. I've always been a cat person, but I have a dog, and I treat myself in the way that I treat her. Her name is Snowy Starla. And
I love that name.
she's so sweet, and she's like the embodiment of the sacred divine feminine energy. Like, she's a healer. When I'm feeling afraid, in the same way I go, oh, Snowy, it's okay, girl, I love you. I do that to myself. And, you know, I share that with my clients, and it's been helping them a lot. We can get into the cycle of almost like abusing ourselves, saying, oh gosh, why are you afraid? For goodness sakes, you know, just feel the fear and do it anyway. Just push through it. You know, honor what that is, and love up on that part, nurture and love thyself, and then have a conversation, just as we're having a conversation now. You could give it a little name. Oh, little witchy wound. What are you so afraid of? Oh, I love you. And then maybe you have a conversation between the Wonder Woman that's in you and the witchy wound part of you, and then the Wonder Woman part of you can help the witchy woundy part, and then they can come together. And this is called parts work. I'm actually trained in parts work. There'll be a strong part in you that's like, you know, but then there'll be this other part that's like, oh, I'm so scared. And so then if you can bring them all to the seat of your healing counsel, just having that conversation and then doing things that really nurture yourself to bring you back to a place of calm. And then journaling. The next one's just journaling, writing it down, attending women's circles, reading, educating yourself about the history so that you know the information in your mind, so that you understand the emotions that you're feeling. Candles, and speak to God, Goddess, Spirit, whatever you believe in, to bring light into your heart and bring light to your soul. My Wonder Woman is my connection to the sacred divine feminine. You know, she moves through me, my connection with the goddess, going into the forest, hugging trees, beauty in my children's faces, petting my dog, being in the garden, being with Mother Earth.
Schamet is going to share with us a very powerful meditation
from this incredible book called Witch. Deep breath in and release, bringing your hands to your belly, to your womb space, and one hand to your heart. Just start to breathe into the divine power of you and who you are, and that you're taking this time for yourself right now. And just begin to receive the energy of you, the energy of your feminine power and your connection to the earth. So if you have your feet on the floor, just starting to feel that connection that you have to Mother Earth. If you can turn to your east and recognize and honor the element of air. I invite you to blow out the old and bring in the new. Help us to allow the winds of change and not resist them. So really honoring change, the winds of change and the element of air. Next to the south, and you can face the south if you want to, and the element of fire. I invite you to burn away any regrets and ignite a fire of passion and desire, and be the flame that ignites the light of others when plunged into the darkness. next to the west and the element of water, I invite you to cleanse us, quench our thirst, nourish us, allow us to explore the ebb and flow of our emotions and purify our thoughts. Finally, to the north and the element of earth, hold us and support us as we grow strong roots so that we can rise. Mama Earth and Father Sky, Grandma Moon and Grandfather Sun, star nations and the mysteries that lie between, be with us, support us, and guide us in our circles. Ancestors, witches, priestesses, priests, and wise women and men that have gone before us, please join us, sit with us, and guide us in this sacred circle. She, divine feminine, Lady of all that is, I ask you for your presence and your blessings. Please clear the space of any heavy energy and fill it with love, healing, and truth. She, I ask you to work through me, to work through us, and to make sure we hear and feel what we need the most as we experience this sacred circle and this pathway of healing together. And in this moment, we are thanking our angels, our ancestors, all of the wise men and women that were persecuted. We want to honor them in this moment too, sending them healing love and gratitude for being part of this awakening as we awaken to the truth of what is, as we awaken to the truth that is within. We begin then to awaken consciousness, taking a moment to breathe in to your feminine power, just taking a moment to feel that connection to the earth, feel that connection to each other. And thank you for having this conversation with the goddess.
Beautiful. Thank you. That was the perfect closing for this powerful conversation. And please support the channel by liking, comment, and subscribing. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you got great wisdom and empowerment out of this show, and that you're making the choice now to call on your inner Wonder Woman and heal those witch wounds, and really come out and be all that you came here to be. You are love, even more than you can know. And with each passing lifetime, we've watched you as you've grown to be more full of wisdom, radiant and divine. Oh, dear soul, you're a masterpiece, a heavenly design. So may the goddess bless you and keep you all aglow. And we wish you loving kindness, and may your power grow. Thank you so much for joining us. Just remember, witch wound or Wonder Woman? What's it gonna be?